Record. This is Promised Land Bench on July 12, 2021. We haven't dialogued about a mandate for our encounter time here. That's probably where we need to begin. Jane, did you have a sense of mandate?
I'm a bit torn as to whether to say anything or just see what we see, because I'm not fully clear. But it might be linked with the Chancellor's houses and Godheadship, which I think was probably why Father led us to this discussion around Godheadship today.
Yeah, I had the same sense.
Yeah.
Sense. The question you posted on there was we need to nail down where the Chancellor's houses are. And what I see is, well, first off, just so everybody knows, there are 12 Chancellor's houses. Melchizedek is a chancellor. So in a chancellor's house, there are 12 seats for 12 chancellors, and there's a chief chancellor with each chancellor's house. There are 12 different chancellor's houses. One is the treasury that Melchizedek is chief chancellor of. I see the 12 chancellors' houses as being related to God headship. It's like the 12 chancellors' houses become one God headship. Somehow the 12 become one. That's what I see so far. I think it's no coincidence that the word house is associated with chancellors. And then there's the house of God, right? It's not a coincidence that the word house is found in both places. So for me, to fully function in Godheadship, one needs to function as a chancellor in each of the 12 chancellors' houses. That's what I would say as a summary of this. Does that resonate?
What do you mean by become one house, though? Because we've got various things. We've got the individual houses where people operate and they're sort of going towards a tribe. And then we've got the one house where all the houses work together as one universal house.
I see that the sons of God are part of the house of God, that God as Father God has a house, and somehow that one house is meant to be one universal house for the whole of all of the believing group of believers at that level. And somehow the house of God is made up of the 12 chancellors' houses. Being able to function in those 12 chancellors' houses define us as having fully ready to function in God headship is somehow what I'm saying, I think.
Yeah, I would resonate with that last statement, just not the first statement, that it becomes one house.
Okay. So because there is an overall pattern in Scripture and in creation, where there's for example, there's Jacob had 12 sons, and there's 12 apostles, and the 12 apostles at the 12 foundations of New Jerusalem, and so on. And there are 12 chancellors' houses. So it's just a basic thing built into creation that there's this pattern of 12. And those 12 separate functions of the 12 chancellors' houses are all together. Once you're functioning in all 12 of them, you're able to function fully in God headship. I don't think you have to be functioning in all 12 of them to function in God headship. But to fully function in God headship, you need to be functioning in those 12 functions.
Yeah, and I think just for those listening on the recording, we thought initially a Chancellor's houses was fairly low down. And I think now we're sensing it's more around Son of God level, not Son.
Yeah. So
that's why quickly getting to being King, Priest, Legislator, Oracle as a son is really basics. And not being stuck in presenting two courts of kings and courts of chancellors. and you begin to understand how you actually just rule a verdict. And then go and visit the Chancellor's houses as an observer and understand why things like scrolls, mandates, laws, treasury, as in sort of the abundance, the finance, is so important for the way that the world works. And therefore, this is all back to one scroll as well. This is why you can't say, well, my destiny scroll is just scrolls, which is what I did in the early days. And it quickly disappeared from that. And it just went to this, and this. And now I'm concerned about everything, because I see how everything impacts. And you can't operate at a higher and higher level if you're unaware of certain sections of the way the cosmos works. So back to a mandate.
Okay.
Yeah. Shall we just see what we see, and we just invite all of heaven to come and release the mandate, to release the presence, to cause us to be in encounter, not stay in dialogue, but just feel that presence now. Remember, you can go anywhere in the realms. You're free. You can place yourself in any realm, any position, even if you've not achieved it on your own personal journey. As a bench, you can go in and sit on any throne to see, to explore. Feel free to move, to see. So anything you see now.
I'm led to invite the 12 chief chancellors to join us. I'm a little hesitant because it's almost like you don't want to ask them to come here. You almost want to go there as a matter of respect. But we frequently ask Melchizedek to join us. Does that sound okay or not?
Definitely. I think that's awesome, Bill. And also, remember, we talked about inviting. Oh, we must tell the bench this. What we saw was some of the bench members, because this bench has got to such a high level, will now be some of the just men made perfect, that may even be resurrected at some point.
Yeah.
So we could just invite and ask them to identify themselves.
Yeah, I'll give a blanket invitation to those who are destined to be a part of this bench. But specifically for this encounter, I'd like to invite the 12 chief chancellors to join us.
Well, I was thinking both.
Okay, today. Both. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So we honor all the chief chancellors, including Melchizedek as the chief chancellor of the treasury, and the humans that are chief chancellors. We honor you for your work, for your passion for the kingdom, and we love to engage your scrolls, your houses, to understand the big picture. And also any just men made perfect, any ancient fathers that are destined to be part of this bench. We open ourselves up to relationship with you and crave that relationship. We just ask that you identify yourself. We long to bench with you.
Very, very interested to see who people see. I mean, what do you see and sense? We've given an invitation. You may or may not know who they are, but you are likely to see them as joining us. Also invite each of us to sit down on the bench, on our bench. invite them also to sit with us as well. It's almost like there's one chief chancellor per seat here, you know, there's 12 seats. I almost like sense that they're standing behind the seat rather than sitting on it because it's not room for everybody. I have an urge to give the seat up and let them sit on it, but I don't sense that that's what's supposed to happen. The chief chancellors, that is. What do you see and sense?
Hello. Hi, this is Gina.
Hi, Gina, go ahead.
Hi. When you talked about them being behind, I see them as behind us, in a position of mentoring, and them kind of whispering in our ear, maybe strategies or wisdom. And I also see a pouring in of gold coins, almost like they're flowing from them to us, like through our torso and into a like into a basin.
Wow. That's got to be Melchizedek in the treasury, I would expect.
Well, I'm getting a blending of cultures too. I'm getting culture to tell me this is a blending, this is a coming together of the 12 chancellors' houses. Is a cultural environment. Bringing in and gold, they're all valuable. They all have perspective. Their coins are all different.
Wow, interesting.
That might be a form of trading, them trading into us.
Oh yeah, sure, good.
I'm just reminded of Abram tithing to Melchizedek. That was a trade in the other direction, right? But this is a trade from the chief chancellors to us. We need to each receive that. I think there's 12 rounds for each of us. I mean, one from each chief chancellor. Remember, you don't have to understand it. Riches. Anybody else? What are you seeing and sensing?
Any names of just men made perfect? I definitely see Elijah.
We honor Elijah. Elijah's involved with turning the hearts of the fathers to the sons and the sons to the fathers. And he's also involved with the restoration of all things, of all. I prefer to say the restoration of all.
I just get a strong sense that they're there as we've invited them to observe, which is confirming what the lady said earlier.
I'm very conscious of the honor they're giving us by being present. But this is a really sacred moment. Maybe holy is a better word.
I'm also sensing Noah very strongly, Enoch, Abraham.
I got Abraham too. Yay.
Ooh, woo.
I got Jeremiah.
Ooh. That's interesting.
Jeremiah left and took with him some treasure, which included people, certain people, when he left.
I had a sense earlier, before us meeting together a couple of days ago, that it would be the seven, Elijah, Moses, Joshua, David, Solomon, Abraham, and Noah. Those seven, with an addition of 5 others. So the 2 additional ones we've seen so far would be Enoch and Jeremiah. So maybe 3 more. If that 7 resonates with you. Somehow I see it as being 7 plus 5.
Do you mean 5 just men made perfect?
5 additional beyond those 7 that I listed off.
Oh,
And we've specifically seen Enoch and Jeremiah. Now, I may not be correct on that, so.
well, I was just thinking that it would be just a few to make up the 12 with us.
Oh, make up the difference, you're saying.
Yeah.
Ah,
So this 5 would kind of almost, because we're kind of like around 8, would almost be the right number. Because we can't relate to too many, you know, if you get too many, you get overwhelmed.
yep. Well, going by encounter, we specifically have seen Enoch and Jeremiah and Elijah and Noah. So there's 4 right there.
Abraham says 5.
Okay, let me write them down.
Oh,
Don't
sorry,
lose that.
Enoch with 5. Yeah, 5 with Enoch.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, so we just honor you. We really honor your scrolls. We release your scrolls through us as everlasting gates. That the world may feel the hunger for your scrolls. And we may feel the hunger for your scrolls. And we may understand the big picture, particularly with Noah and Enoch. And anything we're missing, particularly Jeremiah, as we haven't had a lot of contact. We release your scroll, Jeremiah, that we may understand the heart of what you were shown.
Jeremiah's got a strong emphasis on coming out of Babylon, which is what Thomas was referring to.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and what he brought with him when he left.
Wow.
Also strongly functioning with respect to a remnant,
Mm,
wouldn't you say?
yeah.
I mean, he's like, forget the majority, that's just done and over with, that's lost. And let's concentrate on the remnant.
Wow. See, I'm sensing a freedom mandate today.
Ah,
I do think Noah has so much about freedom, Enoch.
Yes, because that's the word I woke up with this morning. Freedom.
Oh, really, Gina? Oh, wow.
Good word. So looking at Jeremiah, let's see, freedom. What does Jeremiah, what was his mantle? He actually brought his scribe with him, and he also brought the daughters of King Zedekiah. That's bloodline. Also, Jeremiah was bloodline. And he brought them and they left. He also brought the stone with him. The stone of scone, of scoon.
which relates to kingship, correct?
Yes.
The-
Relates to melding cultures too.
Wow.
Amanda has Jeremiah 6:16 through 19 burning in here. I'm reading Stephen's note on the chat, and I just
Ooh.
pulled that up for us to see. This is New King James. Doesn't quite fit on one screen, but you can see it here. I'll just read it. Stand in the ways and see and ask for the old paths where the good way is and walk in it. Then you will find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk in it. Also, I set watchmen over you saying, listen to the sound of the trumpet. But they said, we will not listen. Therefore, hear you nations and know, O congregation, what is among them. Hear, O earth, behold, I will certainly bring calamity on this people, the fruit of their thoughts, because they have not heeded my words nor my law, but rejected it.
Is Jeremiah 6:16 through what?
19.
19?
Very much judgment on the ones that say no, and encouragement to the ones that say yes, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at the ESV. Stand 16, verse 16. Stand by the roads and look and ask for the ancient paths, where the good way is. Walk in it and find rest for your soul.
You say ancient paths, that makes me think of Lady Wisdom.
Yeah. The highway to holiness.
Yeah. I'm seeing. Maybe we
Oh,
could say this way. Go ahead, Jane.
Oh, sorry, I was speaking on mute.
Go ahead.
I sense the Chancellor's House Affairs of the Nations today. And it could be linked with this judgment of those that will not follow Yeshua, and particularly linked to freedom. And it's getting absolute, the freedom agenda now is getting really, what's the word, intense. And there's several timelines that we could go on, I see. And it's not set that we're all just going to go on God's highest blueprint timeline. So I think there's something around that, that releasing the freedom from the affairs of the nations to bring the judgment on those that are restricting our freedom.
So if we took verse 19 of Jeremiah and looked at the reciprocal of what it's saying. So it would say something like, "Be hear, O earth, behold, I am bringing freedom upon this people, the fruit of their operations, because they have paid attention to my words. And as for my law, they have supported it."
I do sense a real division in the world as a whole, on the earth as a whole right now, between two groups. It's almost like the parting of the Red Sea. On the one side is those who aren't listening, and this side is those who are listening. There's just these two groups, and there used to be a lot of people sitting on the fence, and I see that there's not people sitting on the fence anymore. Everybody's pretty much landed in one group or the other. It's just, you just know whether somebody's a listener or not.
Yeah.
And I think the freedom mandate as well has linked with what's going on in the world.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And the group, there's a large group that's accepting loss of freedom, and there's a smaller group that's saying, no, I want my full God-given freedom. And beyond that, to functioning in God headship, which I think probably is complete freedom, huh?
Yeah, there's a verse that's been coming up quite a bit over the last couple of weeks that talks about pruning fruit, and even the fruit that we bear will be pruned to bear more fruit.
Mhm.
Wow.
So, yeah, so there are people who are willing to go into deeper places with more responsibility. So that they can bear more fruit.
Hmm.
Wow. That's challenging. I do sense as well that there's 12 foundations, which is the opposite of the 12 foundations you brought, Bill. I mean, whether you could even do that in an accelerated way, because a lot of them we've already done, but bring the 12 positive foundations, which will bring freedom. Because freedom is one of the highest blueprints, freedom in everything.
It's
Whether you could
almost,
do that in the affairs of the nations, Chancellor's house, I don't know. It's probably not high enough, but
I don't think we need to know the 12 foundations specifically to put them in place,
no, I agree.
because you can get lost in the details.
Yeah.
But they need to be put in place. My sense is that there's 12 foundations to the house of God that need to be in place. Just like there's 12 foundations of New Jerusalem. And just like the world system, which is the system of darkness, has 12 foundations, which I've tentatively identified on a page.
So I wonder, if we're in the affairs of the nations and Chancellors is much higher than we thought, say Son of God, are we in God headship by being in this Chancellor's house?
It's almost like God headship has 12 specific functions, one for each Chancellor's house, and it's actually God headship.
Oh, wow. See, I hadn't seen that before, and it just came to me. Wow, which means I've been in God headship for years and not known.
That's the pattern we've had repeatedly, Jane, that you especially have been functioning in things by encounter that you hadn't yet been able to put a label on, but you know how to make it work. And
Yeah.
you're happily doing it, you're flowing in it. And at some later point, we see, oh, that's what that is. And my observation of my experience is that I come to a place where I'm ready to start fathering with respect to something. And that's at the point at which I start nailing down the details so that I can put it out for somebody else to understand it.
It was a whole new perspective on the Chancellor's houses. And I just wonder if we go there and we can release the 12 foundations from there, because if you think about it, it is affairs of the nations.
I'm wondering if there's one foundation for each chancellor's house.
Is freedom part of the kingdom? So freedom, kingdom. I just saw something that may or may not. I saw something called freedomhouse.org. It's very interesting that it rates the freedom of each country. It has a score. And I find that interesting, that we're discussing that, that this is for the nations. It's not just for us individually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but I should also say, funny enough, I literally posted last night. I was led to post on my story on my personal Facebook page about nations. And I had to remind people that nations in God's senses are not, you know, America, Australia, UK. They are overcomers.
Mhm.
And so what we're trying to do is get into nation headship by bringing, another word you might want to say is almost bring the tribes in to be the one tribe, as opposed to let's get all the nations that we know of working together. So we're dealing with the remnant, as we said before. We're bringing the remnant together initially. The remnant's got to come together initially. I mean, whether everybody gets together is a different matter, but what I see today is the affairs of the nations is wow, what is it? Is it freedom of, I mean, is it freedom for the remnant not to be harmed, or is it freedom for everyone?
Well, if we walk in the freedom, then since we're the first to enter in, will we be able to bring others in?
Yes, I mean, definitely there'll be a flow on, absolutely. But you know what I'm sensing is that this has to be around the remnant craving the freedom and not tolerating it.
Mhm.
And I've been on this journey of craving disappearing from the authorities so I can move around freely. And it's been quite I've been tested, but I've been on this journey. I'm traveling currently, and I've managed to escape various things. And I see that's where we have to get to. Because it won't necessarily be that everything will just disappear overnight, you know, and we'll all be fine.
I think part of the question here that we're wrestling with, that I'm wrestling with anyway, is the whole, everything for everybody going to get better and better and better, or is it just going to get better and better for those that are the remnant? I'm having less and less hope for the countries of the world to well, they're certainly not going to get better and better without us helping us functioning to make it happen. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing, Bill, is that if we're not craving the freedom, and we're not even testing it out, you know, how can we expect that even if it disappears again, it might come back and we're not going to have overcome in these areas? And it's also part of entering the age of rest, because you have to rest from your enemies, and you can't the age of rest is before the age of Zion, so you have to rest from your enemies to get anything near the promised land. I mean, at the moment we're going backwards. Do you know what I mean? In practical senses, we've got less of the promised land than we had a few years ago.
Yeah, this last 2 years is definitely in world history has been going backwards on the surface, but then at the same time, this bench and other streams in heavenly realms are in places that are higher than ever before. So it's like the two things are happening at the same time. The world as a whole seems to be going backwards, and we seem to be going forward. But then there's the issue of practical manifestation also.
So what do you sense to going in this Chancellor's house then?
Well, maybe we need to simply go and see how it goes.
Yeah, because I think there are probably quite a few have been in Chancellor's houses, and it was good for them to understand how it functions. And I don't think we as a bench have ever been in affairs of the nations, have we?
We haven't.
Have you been, Bill, with your bench?
We Upward Journey way back when did a series of discoveries, one session per Chancellor's house. But no, we really haven't been back to function there in any kind of a mature function as a
Can you
bench.
recall any general summary of what the Affairs of the Nations was about?
No, not much. It's been 2-3 years probably since we've had that encounter. We just simply go.
Yeah, let's go. And
We've got a lot of people that are able to see very, very well. So let's get a fresh perspective, a new look. Everybody okay with doing discovery in the Affairs of Nations Chancellor's house? So we're visiting.
yes.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, and then I think we may also want to sit down in the Chancellor's seats there once we get there and have looked it over a little bit, and see what function we're meant to function in while we're there. Again, you don't have to be personally in that place. Does that sound okay, Jane?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go together to the Chancellor's House of the Affairs of the Nations. Again, there are 12 seats in every Chancellor's house, one seat for each of 12 Chancellors. There's one Chief Chancellor. I'm not clear on whether he's one of the, he or she is one of the 12 or whether it's additional to that. But each Chancellor's house has got the basic structure, but then it's a little different, and we can do this by discovering. Go take a look.
I've always seen them as he's part of the 12.
Okay, so they're one of the 12 and the
Yeah.
chief of the 12. Thank you.
So anything you see in there, do you
Come on in.
see a table?
Mm-hmm.
I do now.
Oh, yeah.
I've always seen them all sat around a table, and there's like a hole in the middle of the table, and that's the portal.
Oh.
Ah,
And that's where you throw things into to do the governing.
Cool.
But I've never had confirmation on that from anyone else.
Plenty of folks here that can see well.
Okay,
Don't
well, I
let
can
the,
see
go ahead, what do you see?
I just see a room with men standing around a large oval table, and one of them, some are sitting and some are standing. There's a man standing at the very left, and a man at the right stands up, and he has what looks like a huge parchment, and he's sort of like when you roll it out on a table, has rolled it out on a table, and there's all this like a map all over it, and the others are all nodding.
Awesome.
So-
And ladies, don't let this throw you. They're all men here because we're all sons of God in this place. So
Am I on mute or not mute?
we can hear you. Go ahead,
Oh,
Bonnie.
okay. When we walked in, I saw a lot of bookshelves and a lot of windows, and outside the windows is like a grass and sky. So
Wow. But hey,
Yeah,
Bonnie, it's lovely
I
to
also
see you.
see that.
Yeah,
also
I've always
see that.
seen bookshelves too.
I also see like as another room with a whole lot of other men walking around like as though they're studying and have books or whatever they are. But the main picture was the oval table with that in the background.
So you saw a map, Amanda? Is that what you said? A
Yeah,
map.
like a map on a big sort of long piece of parchment that had been rolled up, that he sort of rolled out on the table, and it's curling up at one end, and the man at the other end is holding the end down, and they're leaning into, standing up, looking over this map.
So it sounds like the map's a blueprint. Should we ask what?
Yeah, that's
what-
sort of like a blueprint. Yeah.
Yeah. Should we ask what the map's pointing towards?
Yeah, we may be able to see it. We may be able to hear it. You may simply get infused knowledge of it. So glad that we're here today. I've been wanting to do this.
Something I sense about the strategy to bring the nations together, which will cause freedom.
I'm seeing lions everywhere, lions with crowns.
Wow, that's the overcomers, isn't it? The Lion of the tribe of Judah.
That's
Oh,
king
okay.
headship.
Yeah.
Take a look at our group. I think you'll see that we're in that also, you know.
What I'm sensing is that the remnant, the overcomers, they have to get on the same page. They have to get on this map so that we can quickly accelerate God's agenda, because we're actually behind. What I saw was a lot of the sons are way behind God's blueprint. Not blueprint, way
Timeline.
behind God's timeline, yeah, the prophetic timetable. And they don't realize that. They think, oh, you know, I'm in the new wineskin, I'm ahead of things. But they're not. The timetable is accelerating massively because of the acceleration brought by the sons who are really forerunning. This is why you cannot take camp in a particular age or particular protocol. Sometimes you only do it once and then you move on. It's that fast.
It's also the reason why functioning as an overcoming king is so absolutely essential. You missed that stage and you're working on something else, but you haven't done that. You really are missing the key to the whole thing. And you were talking about nation status, and I just want to briefly mention that the first mention of overcomer in Scripture is Jacob. Jacob overcame. He wrestled with God and with men. He prevailed, and was given the new name Israel, which is the name of a nation. And that's where we're talking about nations, not in the sense of countries, but nations in the sense of overcomers, those who have overcome. And Lions of the tribe of Judah is overcomer. Absolutely key. That's the key to the whole revelation of Jesus Christ, is overcoming. It's the whole purpose of it, the whole point of it.
Wow. Wow. See, this is all back to our dialogue. This is why we had to have this dialogue
Yep.
earlier on, because I think what Father's saying is so many of my sons have overcome. They've no idea they've overcome.
Yep.
So they're going in and doing all this cleansing and all this and that, instead of acting on the fact that they are the overcomers. They can operate immediately as the Lion of the tribe of Judah, roaring as a lion. I mean, that was one of the very first encounters I did. I was already an overcoming king then. I just had to realize that all the stuff I'd done before accounted for something. And I didn't know that. So I went backwards and started doing all this other stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as roaring as a lion if you have no idea of any other protocols.
Simply roaring as a lion will change situations.
And so Jacob did something. And his character changed.
Yeah.
Mostly what he did was he was at the end of any personal ideas about what to do next. But he realized that if he quit, it was definitely done, over. So he just didn't quit. He just kept wrestling and not even knowing what he's wrestling for. But he just knows God's there and he's going to wrestle, and he's going to wrestle until there's an answer. And the answer came when the angel of the Lord gave him his new name. And his name told him what he did. He wrestled with God and didn't quit. So the name Israel means he wrestled with God, the very presence and face of God, Peniel, Phanuel in other languages, and didn't quit. So the overcomer is a person that doesn't quit.
Wow, so good. So good, Thomas. Wow. Think of that. If all the things that you're wrestling with, if you don't worry about those, and the only thing you worry about is just not quitting, how much easier it gets. just make a decision. I'm not going to quit.
Yeah.
I think everybody here has already functioned in that to some level. You wouldn't be here if you hadn't already come quite a long way on the not quitting scale.
For real.
It can still
That's
attack
so
you.
true.
Like that.
Regardless of your level of understanding, you've got a lot of not quitting in you.
For
But
real.
it never ceases. The temptation I've found, always keeps going on there, particularly in the rough patches. So it's one of those things. I just think you just got to keep ruling on that. It's steadfastness, isn't it? The biblical principle.
Endurance, perseverance. A lot of those words. Go ahead, Gina.
For some reason, these fires, I see these pillars of fire, like 4 at the surrounding the room, and 4 corners, these pillars of fire. Then I see one. Yeah, I see one in the center of this table. But the ones that are highlighted the most are the ones on the room. It's like when you were talking about Jane, when you were talking about things that you had already done, but you didn't know you had done them. You're just walking in the newness of revelation of what God showed you. It almost seems like these fires are there for like our old ways or old function or old ways of doing things.
Well,
Kind of.
I'm currently a pillar of fire, but it represents the fact that you're fully operating in all the seven spirits.
Yes, I think that's kind of it's like you have to leave the old stuff behind, and so maybe that's how you're saying it is more you know, more relevant. I'm trying to put into words what I'm hearing, but I can't, I don't have the words just yet.
Okay.
What I'm sensing, Gina, is the pillars of fire are those that are operating in the full seven spirits, coming to squash the wisdom of the old wineskin or the old ways of doing things. And so they're here to release the wisdom of how we do this in a new way.
That's perfect.
Yeah, there might be 4 high-level sons of God come to do this mandate.
I have a sense that we have an invitation to sit down in the seats if we haven't already at this point. To actually function as chancellors in the house here.
Take a look at Revelation 3:10. I'm using the ESV again. Because you have kept my word about patient endurance. Another translation uses the phrase that steadfast. So because you've been steadfast, I will keep you from the hour of trial that is coming on the whole world to try those who dwell on the earth. What I get from that is the trial comes, but those that are steadfast, it's not for them. They've already done it in the process of their overcoming. There's the NKV. Yeah, okay, NJV. So the word to get out to everybody is to be steadfast, and you'll be kept from the hour of trial, whatever that is.
I'm seeing I looked at who was the Chief Chancellor here, and all I could discern was that it was someone glowing white light. And I asked, was that a sun? And I heard yes. This is somebody really been operating in the affairs of the nations for a long time. We could almost ask them, what specifically are we releasing today? I mean, we've kind of got the answer. To bring the overcomers to work together. So it's going to bring more power and authority. I'm sensing, Bill, this is linked with your word as well. I'm waiting on you. We're waiting on the overcomers to take their authority to bring the nations into one holy nation.
Hmm. Remember, the nations are individual overcomers. And one holy nation is a oneness. Place of oneness of all the overcomers. It is a level of headship.
Yeah. I think we've got to, this is about calling in the one holy nation. Because we can't expect the nations to all work together, the real nations that we know of, unless the one holy nation is in place. See, we don't need, yeah, I'm seeing that most of the new wineskin as well, they're not even desiring to be one holy nation or even know of that revelation. So that's the problem.
Yeah, but what I'm sensing too, Jane, is that would like consolidate. It brings into oneness what this particular chancellor's house is all about. And there's going to be some kind of an equivalent function in each of the other chancellor's houses to bring them into oneness as well. But this one specifically has to do with that promise to Abram. I will make you a great nation. I mean, we can set out a call to gather in. I think it's more than an actual just call. It's an actual gathering. I mean, how do you get their focus off of what it's been on and onto this as a primary mandate and primary emphasis of what they're doing? It's like the tyranny of the urgent. I mean, you can spend your time doing a whole lot of good things and still miss the great thing, the really important thing that you're meant to be doing.
Well, Jacob and I'm not Jacob, Joshua and Caleb did it. And so the call is to look at the character of Joshua and Caleb. What did they do? And what happens when folks don't do it?
That's another 12, Thomas. 12 spies.
Yeah.
2 said yes, 10 said no. 40 years later, they sent out another 12 and they all said yes.
Did they send out another 12? Or did Moses just tell them time to go?
No, I think he sent another 12 out and they got it right the second time around, if I remember correctly. There's something about 12 being in agreement on the yes, as opposed to being in agreement on the no.
Yeah. What I'm seeing is we're talking about overcomers. We're talking about the holy nation. And we're talking about, with Caleb and Joshua, a place called Kadesh Barnea, which is known as the highway to holiness. So that's the ancient pathway. The ancient pathway came up tonight. What's the ancient pathway? That's the ancient pathway.
Yeah, farther along that though, we got this place of 12 overcomers like Jacob, all saying yes. I wonder if the governmental action here is to get 12 of us in 12 chancellor seats, all saying yes to one holy nation. It may just be as simple as that.
Well, one holy action.
It's the equivalent of the 12 spies being sent out and all 12 of them saying yes instead of 10 saying no and 2 saying yes.
Right.
Only we're saying yes to the highest blueprint for a nation in scripture. One holy nation.
Yeah.
One great holy nation. Jane, does that resonate?
Oh, that's fabulous, Bill. Absolutely.
I mean, each of us take our seats
Wow.
in one of the seats and we'll ask the adjustmen that are made perfect that are present to fill in the remainder seats. So we got each of us in 12. Now don't feel like remember, you may not have come to this place on your own journey, so you may not function here personally, but you are functioning here as part of a bench of 12 that's functioning here. We're basically taking our 12 bench seats and just superimposing them on the 12 seats of the Chancellor's house. It's the same basic function of being a bench of 12, only we're a bench of 12 in the Chancellor's house. And we each then at that point say yes to becoming one great holy nation in fulfillment of the promise that was made to Abram that he would be made into a great nation. He is in the natural Israel fulfilled that promise. Remember, there's the sand on the seashore, which is the natural part of the promise, and there's the stars in the sky, which is the spiritual part of the promise. What we're doing here today is functioning with respect to the stars in the sky, the spiritual part of the promise of Abram becoming one great holy nation. So each of us seated in one of the seats here, and other just men made perfect sitting in the other seats, and each of us with one of the 12 chief chancellors behind us. We each, in a moment, I'm going to just count to 3 and ask you to say yes to the universal ecclesia becoming one great holy nation. We're doing this on a forwarding timeline.
What I see, Bill, is we throw the map that Amanda saw into the portal in the center of the table to
Okay.
release the full blueprint.
Okay.
Because remember, what you're doing here is you wanted to make a transfer between realms.
Between
realms.
realms.
So
Okay.
yeah, so it's not just making an agreement. You've actually got to release something into a new portal, a new dimension, a new realm.
Okay.
It's part of being flow. So you just flow, you throw the map in, but then you flow with it through that portal, through the realms, till that blueprint is invading all the realms and all the different ages that people are operating from, and they see a bigger blueprint.
Okay. So each of us has her hand on this map. And each of us is pushing it towards the center where that portal is, in the center of the table. And as we push it in, we follow it in, all of us, right? That's what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, you just flow like the river.
Flow right into it. Okay.
Yeah. And what I'm seeing is that most people are making this mistake of thinking that their benches are around dealing with the affairs of their nation they live in. And so they're just forming according to geographical location instead of forming globally and actually having a representation across time zones. And that, funny enough, has always been the way this bench has operated for 5 to 6 years. It has never been one geographical nation.
Yep.
Isn't that amazing that it is operated globally?
Multiple nations represented on this bench here today in this particular gathering.
And I think to stop us getting into, oh, my country's got this problem, I need to fix it, because we all feel a bit more panicky over our own nation, don't we? Yeah, it's forcing us down this overcomers route.
Okay. So flow with this map into the portal, each of us together in oneness. I see us all going to the portal at the same time. And experience what you experience. Feels to me like much like going through a wormhole, and as far as what I would see in a science fiction show.
That's what I was thinking.
That's what I felt, Thomas. So that's two of us.
Okay, I want to say we.
Yeah,
Amusement park, right?
yeah.
Enjoy it. Enjoy the flow. No reason why you can't have a whole lot of fun while you're doing a really serious mandate. That's the way God does things. No religion involved at all. Just a lot of joy.
So what I'm seeing is, like, I've got this new concept just came to me. One river. Never seen that before. We become one river. And imagine you're flowing down the elevator shaft of all the realms we've mentioned. Eternity, perfection, heaven of heavens, heaven, kingdom of heaven, kingdom of kingdom of God, kingdom of earth, and then even all the realms below that. So imagine you're flowing through that, and then it comes back into the like the infinity symbol. So you go around the infinity symbol, around the other side to infinity, through New Jerusalem at the center, at the crossing point. So you fall, it's like a water slide, you fall down the vortex in the middle, New Jerusalem, and it causes New Jerusalem to be birthed on New Earth. And you're in New Earth. So you've brought this blueprint to New Earth. You've birthed a new blueprint on the Earth's timeline. And then I saw that, because I was asking, oh, where is one holy nation, Israel? Where do I go for one holy nation, Israel? And I think that's where you go. It has to be in New Earth, where the Earth timeline operates as the heavens timeline. And it's almost like a city. Everyone's gathering, everybody wants to connect with each other, they want to understand where each other are, they want to love each other. It's a beautiful city.
And there is a
Beautiful
city actually
culture.
called the City of God.
Yeah.
It's over the realm of everlasting, if I remember correctly.
The city of God.
City of God, isn't it over the realm everlasting? Getting a chart out here. Yeah,
But that's in it. That's in eternity. This is on the earth. This is the gathering place. So
something different.
yeah, where everyone gathers. And this is what I've had on my scroll for years, that I just wanted, like, all the leaders to gather and like talk to each other and learn, and willing to accept a higher blueprint and not trigger and be hungry in what somebody else's blueprint was. Not, I haven't heard it from God. I'm not interested. It's a new culture. It's a culture of collaboration.
Culture, yeah.
What it is, you actually hear God through somebody else.
Yeah, you give them the honor of speaking to you as God.
At that level. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you don't, what you're saying is, I'm demeaning you over God. I'm happy to hear from God, but I'm not happy to hear from you. But when you're in God headship, you and God are one.
Hmm.
So it's impossible. So God would say, well, it's actually impossible. You can't ignore my son and say you want to hear me. It's the same way as why we need the scriptures, because
Yeah.
none of us would have ever heard this blueprint on our own.
I think also part of it is that lots of heads of houses or heads of heavenly realm streams are heading towards functioning in God headship, or already functioning in God headship. And it's almost like we're saying, I'm the only one that's functioning here, if we're not listening to others that are functioning in God headship to hear what they have to say as they're functioning in God headship.
Yeah, absolutely. And also it's saying, as an element, I don't trust you. I'll trust God, but I won't trust you. But what's the reality? You can never fully trust that you've heard God unless you've ratified it with lots of other people. I mean, this is how we get cult leaders who just go for such a tangent because they're so convinced they've heard God. They've never ratified it with anyone. They never sought the balance. And then all these people just follow them, and they take this whole group of people off the narrow path. This is why ratification is so important, because we all could be wrong. We all are wrong. There's no doubt about it. We're all wrong to a point where we haven't seen everything. So it's wrong's the one word. We're just lower revelation.
Incomplete.
Yeah, incomplete. Yeah, it's not wrong or right. It's incomplete. Yeah.
I wonder if we can't be perfect or complete on our own. Maybe perfect and complete is only a corporate thing and not a personal thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now you've said it, Bill. That's obvious. Yeah.
Yeshua is the only one that could do it and be personally perfect and complete, but that's because he was forerunning functioning in headship, and he was always the first one to get there. He's always the first one to function in something. Perfect and complete is a corporate or group experience. It's not an individual experience.
Yeah, but how do we get the group experience if we basically cannot yet see eye to eye as a whole?
Yeah, that's a
Well,
good question.
I think part of the answer is that there's a particular level at which we're meant to start functioning, that leaders of heavenly realms, houses or streams are meant to start functioning in a corporate function together at a particular level. And I think it's Son of God and Godheadship is the level at which we're going to find that a lot of heavenly realms leaders will be in heavenly realms and look around and they'll see that there's somebody else that's also functioning in that same level that they are. And there'll be a desire to, they're like me. I'd love to get to know this person. I've been forerunning and functioning in headship for a stream or a house. And it's been a bit lonely and it's been a big responsibility. And there's somebody else just like me that I can see now at this level. And I want to function together with them.
Yeah, because I'm seeing right now that Justin Abraham is teaming up with Nancy Cohen. So maybe just that's an example right there of what you spoke.
It's very hopeful there. Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's some good what's the word? Iron sharpens iron happening currently, I've seen. And Nancy is very strong on speaking out where she feels the blueprint is different from what houses are saying. And she's actually doing that a lot, which I sense was really, really needed, because that's what wasn't happening. And everybody was just saying their own thing, And I think that crossover of those two is going to merge us all a lot better, because that was where the division was. And the biggest thing I see is we have to step into the humility pillar for the age of Zion. You have to go through a journey of humility. And I think that's probably where some haven't gone through that journey, and maybe because they haven't seen the age of Zion. And when you go through that, you realize and you start doubting, have you heard right? Have you heard this right? And you want confirmation from others. And you also, you can't be a humble person unless you're willing to ask others if they think you're right or not. If you just go, I've heard from God, this is it. That's not humility. And you're also it's not humility if you're not interested in what others' revelation is. If you just, I can only, do my own journey, and I'm not interested in what anyone else is saying, or I can't understand them. That's not humility, because it's a form of dishonor, saying, well, I'm just doing my journey with you. Sure, I'm very content, but, really not interested in where you're going. And what it fails to see is that you won't be given every single piece. So therefore you will form doctrine that is very one-sided, out of balance. So this is what I've seen right from the start, because my scroll and my gospel, I realize now I have a gospel, is this balance thing, this 12 pieces. I've always seen the big picture of how everybody else needs everybody else, and they'll show one piece and you'll be given one piece, and when you merge them it becomes beautiful. But if it becomes a whole, but if you don't merge them, it starts to get ugly. You start to go off on this one thing that you've been shown very, very strongly, and you say it over and over and over and over again, and then you get more and more people following you who only say that one part of the picture. And it gets, I trigger a lot on it now. If I only hear one thing being said over and over again from a leader, it has to be that balance.
Because then it turns right back into sheep. Sheep that just guided by a shepherd, and they don't grow into maturity because because it says that you need to search things out for yourself. So nothing's wrong with searching out for yourself, because when you do that, then you will come into the fullness of understanding that others have. But if you just want to follow, then you don't break forth for confirmation. So say if we are operating separately, right? Then and we're being led by Yahweh, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, then we will all come into the fullness of understanding as one. It's just not one. It's not just one part. So you will get revelation as you say, that maybe seek for ourselves as individuals. We come to revelation, and the revelation that we come to has to fit somewhere as a full body, right? So so the understanding that we get as individuals has to fitly join together with the other leaders, the other forerunners, and all like that. So that's why it's like to the individual and then to the corporate. But if we just want to be sheep following and we're content to just be led, then the only thing we have to stand on is what we're following, because we haven't searched it out for ourselves to fall into the greater picture. So like we're into the greater picture because of what someone else has said, not what we have sought for ourselves, and then seeing that it all fits jointly together. That's how I see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but we're not at that place. That's why we've got this mandate today. Is many can't see that. It's actually a mystery that's really eluded them for some reason. And I feel really good about this, the fact we've done this, because I think that will change this culture. And this is back to culture. I've actually realized I have a very high place, if not Chief Chancellor of the Culture's House, because culture has been absolutely on my scroll from the start. I've been obsessed with culture because to me it changes everything, you can't change anything without changing the culture. And so I think that this will have a huge impact on the culture. You see, one Chancellor's house affects another. And then it does allow all the Chancellor's houses to work in unison.
Yeah, the culture Chancellor's house I see is when the how you take 60 days to learn a new habit, to make something become a habit. It's not really firmly a habit until after you've made that full journey. At least I've heard that anyway. It's not fully changed until it's become a culture, and it's still in danger of going back the other way if it hasn't become a culture yet. Culture is when it's set in stone, or when it's really firmly in place. In the universal ecclesia. I mean, there's cultures at house level, but there's also the overall culture of the universal ecclesia too. Have we completed our mandate here today? I don't think we asked what everybody saw once they went down through the portal. Did anybody else have something they wanted to share as far as what they saw, experienced as they went down through that portal? I think we can know for sure that we're done when we've done that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I came down a long chute that was vibrating and like a wormhole, I guess, but it came out on the top of on the side of the top of a mountain. And I came out as an eagle looking down upon cattle upon 1,000 hills, and a sense of peace.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Thank you. Anybody else? What did you see or sense, experience?
I think I must have missed that poor part. I've been here the whole time. I don't remember.
It's
Actually,
okay.
I have to enter into that portal.
We were pushing the map that we had in front of us on the table into the portal that was in the center of the hole, and a hole in the center of the table, and we followed it in. Became that one river that Jane spoke about. We experienced it as kind of like a going into a wormhole. Thomas and I testified to that, and Amanda just testified in more detail as to what she experienced. If you missed that, you may want to step into it right now. It's not too late to, it's not missed.
Mhm.
I think that, Amanda, that eagle may be the fact that you're then now looking at through the really big picture eyes of the eagle.
Oh, cool. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the eagle always speaks about flying at great altitude and having a view of a lot from that height. And
Oh,
also the ability to zero in on the details as well. Big picture, and also it's a great view up there.
oh, that's encouraging.
It's also
Yeah. And did you say about the, oh, sorry, Bill, did you say about the flying over sheep, hills of sheep?
Yeah. Well, cattle, it was on just hills everywhere, just these cattle on 1,000 hills, which kind of tied into the beginning with Melchizedek and the river of gold, melted gold, and everybody's seen gold and all that. It's like the culmination was a kind of just cattle everywhere, like prosperity. That's how it kind of felt. And the Chancellor's room, there's just a real sense of peace, like a job has been completed, like they've been really working over this for ages.
awesome.
And so it's just a real calm, and I guess the cattle everywhere, because that is a scripture, isn't it? Cattle on 1,000 hills
Yes.
is a prosperity scripture.
Yeah, and it's,
Abundance scripture, which is what everyone started off talking about.
yeah, it's not just abundance. I think it's God that speaks in that scripture that He is the owner of the cattle on 1,000 hills.
Right.
1,000 hills is not limited, so it's not like He doesn't own 1,001. 1,000 means He owns them all. I think there's an element of inheritance there, which comes after overcoming, and specifically inheriting the earth. That's my sense of when we come through defeating the world system, there's a point at which we come to the place that we have inherited the earth.
Mm.
It's
Yeah,
always
but-
been the sons of God that are meant to inherit the earth.
Mhm. But at the same time, I was hearing a sense of feed my flock. So if we're going forth as forerunners, then we feed that cattle on 1,000 hills.
Ah,
Mhm.
Yes. Wow, that's so good, Doreen. Because I saw this encounter before today. It was only a few days ago, of releasing all the wealth. It was time to release the wealth to the world. And at the time, I actually did it in New Jerusalem through the gates, and I poured out all the wealth because we'd done that on a previous bench. But what I see now is you can quickly go on your own to the Treasury Chancellor's house, and you just throw the wealth through this portal and release all the wealth that has been taken away to be restored. And it is so needed now. It really is needed right now.
Yeah. But question. So when you say wealth is just not in one area, it's wealth in more than one area, right? Because like a lot of times when we hear wealth, it's finances, but this wealth would include spiritual wealth and natural wealth, everything, just like pouring out to all nations the requirements to know and understand who they are, the requirements to prosper both physically, naturally, and spiritually. That's a question.
I think it's both.
Yeah,
Mm,
both. Yeah,
yeah,
it's all, isn't it? I mean, it's.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the distinction between abundance and, well, I don't know, because I even think riches is spiritual riches as well. But yeah, the highest promised land is abundance in everything.
mm.
Do you know, I've just got further revelation as well that the reason why we're having such issues with our physical freedom at the moment is because there was legal right from the sons not doing this one holy nation Israel thing.
Mm.
Agree.
Yeah, because that
Wow.
really is coming from a one nation perspective in the negative, you know.
Wow, that's such a shock. Oh my word, I knew it had bad consequences, but I thought it was more spiritual than physical. Wow. That is crazy. It's crazy. We really have to get our act together.
Where it says he'll keep you from the hour of trial, I think that means all kinds of difficulties. Small, medium, large, earthly, physical, spiritual.
Yeah, the hour of trial. Yeah. You know, why? I'm sorry. It's like, why? Why the hour of trial? Why? Is it because we are not all combined together as one? Right? Why would we need an hour of trial if we are all
Well,
one?
it says the hour of trial is coming to test.
Mhm.
So
test, right, to test if we are in oneness and unity, right? I could be wrong, I'm just wondering.
all of the above.
Yeah. So,
I've got the answer to that, Doreen, I think, or part of it.
okay.
But should we close the recording?
Yes,
Okay.
let's do that. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to turn the recording off and stop the live stream. So